This is the final video as part of the series run by Cognos Educational Psychology Service looking at emotionally based school avoidance for students in Sutton. In this video, we're going to be looking at the key intervention principles. Research indicates that the quicker the reasons for school avoidance can be identified and a support plan put in place that takes into account the views of the child or young person, parents and school staff, the better the outcomes are going to be. And therefore it's really important that schools take on board everything that's been discussed in these videos to try and provide a timely and tailored approach for children. It's also advised that a focus on returning the student to school as quickly as possible is much more effective because being off school can become entrenched very, very quickly. So here are the 7 S's to try and provide the best intervention to support young people who may be experiencing EBSA. First of all, staff training, ensuring that staff have a really good knowledge of the risk factors and implications of EBSA and are clear on their own responsibilities as part of the school support offer. Being student-centred, so that the circumstances around each pupil who struggles with school avoidance will differ, and therefore we really need to understand the experiences of each young person and to ensure that their voice is central to planning and support. We're going to really need to know what it's like for them and what the plan is going to be for them for it to be effective. No 2 action plans will be the same. It needs to be school-led. So the return to school should really be led by someone in school who has either a specialist role or really knows the young person and the family well. The child will be actively involved, the family will be actively involved, and you may have other professionals that are involved too. But really the school needs to take that lead responsibility in being able to support the young person. Safety. So when a person has been avoiding school, there's going to be factors that threaten their sense of safety. And this has been exacerbated with COVID, where there have been periods of which the message has been that school is not a safe place to be. So we're going to need to reduce these fears through careful planning, explicit and predictable routines, and creating a welcome environment to return to. We need to know exactly the parts that the young person feels least safe in and think about ways we can make reasonable adjustments so that they can experience a perceived sense of safety much more so. Speed. There's no set time limits for how quickly a young person will return to school. And therefore it's everyone's responsibility to decide the next steps together and to go at the pace of the pupil. So whilst we've said that a timely intervention is really important and that getting them back into school is really important, we're not going to be able to go from not being in school at all to then being in full time straight away. And so therefore it's better to have 10 really small steps than 3 bigger ones. And so if currently they're not able to get into school, perhaps one step is for them to drive to outside the school gate and go home. That's one clear success that they can achieve before perhaps moving on to the next small step. The speed of their return to school will depend on a range of factors unique to that child. Speaking to one another. So prioritise communication between everyone involved so that really small issues can be addressed quickly. And therefore you are likely to have regular meetings with the family, perhaps weekly, to be able to address any concerns that are being raised and make sure that everyone is being accountable to the actions that have been agreed between each meeting. And then finally we have staff support, so providing additional support to staff who are involved to mitigate against any stress they may feel. This situation can become entrenched very quickly and it can be very difficult to see past the problem, and so there needs to be an acknowledgement of the support that staff are going to need to be able to support this young person on their journey back to school. At the first signs of non-attendance, there's going to need to be a plan put in place that follows the assess, plan, do, review cycles. So you're going to assess the situation, put a plan in place and then review that on a regular basis. It's important to respond quickly in those early stages, and it may mean that you review within a few weeks. But if an intervention is going to be put in place, you need to give sufficient time for that to be, the impact to be shown and reviewed. So perhaps that might be an 8 to 12 week cycle. Although at that point, other aspects of the plan could be continued to be monitored whilst that intervention is taking place. So if you do first spot signs of non-attendance, what do? So first of all, speaking with parents and carers is going to be important to try to really elicit any information that relates to the risk factors of emotionally based school avoidance. It may be the case that the family are very aware of what is going on and can provide you with some rich information about their child's experience. Also, there needs to be a conversation with the young person, perhaps by a tutor or pastoral lead or someone that the young person feels comfortable with, to really be able to explore what is going on with that young person and agree any additional check-ins perhaps as well. Attendance is going to need to be really closely monitored, probably a specific person who can be monitoring that over time, but also exploring and watchful waiting for any indicators of increasing anxiety. The young person is likely to need some anxiety management or emotional wellbeing intervention, perhaps with a school's ELSA, to really be able to provide them with some psychoeducation about what is going on and some strategies that might be able to help if they're feeling some intense emotions. This is all really trying to help to reduce the stress factors and really increase the capacity for the young person to manage and really support the family too. In a previous video, we explored the four main functions of emotionally based school avoidance, and we talked about, dependent on the main reason the young person is experiencing EBSA, it will really inform the type of intervention that is needed. So if you've identified that the young person is experiencing EBSA because they are avoiding uncomfortable feelings brought on by attending school, then therefore the intervention is going to need to be around psychoeducation and teaching the young person about their feelings and how to manage them, about how avoidance makes anxiety worse, providing some physical calming and relaxation strategies, trying to help with some gradual re-exposure and some self-reinforcement, so perhaps some positive self-talk as well. So it's all going to be around trying to help the young person to self-regulate how they're feeling and develop some more comfortable feelings about school. If the young person is avoiding school because they're avoiding some social situations, then we need to think about some psychoeducation, but in relation to social situations specifically, thinking about relaxation and calming again, but perhaps some role play and real life practice of situations, perhaps thinking about some scripts they might be able to use when they're in certain situations that are uncomfortable. You might be able to identify and challenge some unhelpful thoughts and trying to change them into those green thoughts instead, and really trying to improve some coping skills for them to be able to use in real life. If the young person is experiencing emotionally based school avoidance because the separation anxiety they're experiencing, then this intervention may focus more on parents, thinking about some parent training about what might be going on, thinking about how to use rewards, how to give positive attention in certain ways, teaching their child how to be brave. And actually, it's not about avoiding the stressful situation, but actually managing those avoidant behaviours. So parents might be able to take back control and be in charge and given the skills to manage their child's emotions and shift to more positive attention. It might be around improving family function and problem solving for the child. So how to say no, really. So it's really trying to support that parent in that interaction at home. If finally the main reason for emotionally based school avoidance is about the young person pursuing tangible reinforcers outside of school, then again the intervention is going to be more around supporting the family to set up some practices at home so that home does not become a reinforcement. So that might be, for example, that when they are at home, it's got to reflect school day as much as possible. There are morning routines, they have a wake up time, they have to get dressed, sit at the table, complete some academic tasks or mundane tasks, having kind of a set lunch time and a set school time that finishes.
so that school does not become a motivating factor, because they can stay at home in their pajamas, perhaps in their bedroom, watching TV or playing games. So as you can see, dependent on the main reason really impacts on the type of intervention chosen, and you can contact the Educational Psychology Service if you want some more support about how to tailor these interventions, but it's also provided within the guidance that we can share with you as well on our website. You can see on the screen here the 9 different videos as part of our series on emotionally based school avoidance. And I hope you have found all of these videos helpful in your role in trying to support a child who may be experiencing emotionally based school avoidance.